Bike chains work like most other chains on cogs and sprockets and wheels on other devices that use them to power them or move them up and down. A chain sits on what's called a front chain ring or a front sprocket or a chain wheel, and there's little teeth on the chain wheel. The chain sits in there on the front, and then it connects on the rear to what's called a rear sprocket or rear cog. And when you turn the pedals, the chain is sitting in the teeth. So as the chain wheel moves, the teeth push the chain, and thus creating to turn the wheels. So the chain is really an integral part of making a bicycle move. Without the chain, obviously, in the current design, there'd be no movement. Now, there have been bikes that have come out that have been chainless, that have different drive systems. There have also been belt drive systems, quite similar to some motorcycles, things like that. So you can get the same cause and effect without using a chain, just a different design. But that's essentially how a chain works. It sits on the teeth of the front chain wheel and the cog, rear cog, and when the pedals move, the chain is locked in by the teeth and it turns the wheels. Common reasons for a bike chain to stop working, I think specifically in the recreational lifestyle segment of bikes, is rust. A lot of times people would leave their bikes outside, and over time rust will accumulate on the chain, and this is going to force a lot of grinding. It might even prevent the chain from moving. So now obviously we have chains that are built to be rust resistant or stainless steel, things like that. However, if a bike sits outside long enough or in the rain long enough, anything will rust. I mean, not just bikes. Any metal left out long enough over time most likely would accumulate rust. Now, if your bike chain does become rusty, there's a possibility you could clean it and still keep the same chain. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to replace it. It kind of depends if the rust has started to corrode and eat away at the actual metal of the chain. If it hasn't, you might just be able to get a brush and some cleaning product and scrub the rust right off. I would say another big reason for chains to stop working is improper lubrication. So a chain is something, just like your car, you have to change your oil. If you're logging a lot of miles on your chain and over time it's getting dry, when you try to turn that chain, it's not going to be easy to turn, and you're going to hear grinding, and it's not going to be very smooth. So keeping it lubricated, again, on the recreational side, at least once or twice a year. If you're riding every day, every 2-3 months, it really kind of depends on what your climate is and what the humidity in the air is, and also you can look at the chain. If it looks dry and there's no lubrication, just put some chain lubrication on there to keep it working. I would say two other reasons. One is going to be debris getting in the chain. So obviously we have a lot of people using our bikes that live very close to the beach, and sand is a common thing that gets in the chain. So if sand gets in there and starts grinding, the chain's not going to work the way it should. Again, that's an easy fix. You just need to clean it, re-lubricate it. You can keep that chain good as new. Just because some sand gets in there doesn't mean it has to be thrown away. Lastly, and I would say not as common, is the chain actually snapping. It does happen. If a bike comes from the factory with the chain at too high of a tension, and somebody torques the pedals too hard, the chain could snap. So that's one reason why it's really important when installing a chain or replacing a chain that you get the correct tension on the chain to make sure it's not too little or too much, just right enough to keep the bike moving at the pace you want it to. So those are really the major reasons that would cause a chain to stop working. To get a replacement chain for your 630 bike, I would say there's a couple of options. Number one, come to us. If you would like to buy a replacement chain from us, we can offer that. We have the specific sizes that work obviously for each one of our bikes. With that said, no chain is really specific to our bike. So you could replace the chain with a chain from any different type of brand name. The only thing that matters is that the link sizes and the amount of links on the chain are the same. And so a lot of times when you buy a chain that may have too many links, but you can also remove links to have that chain fit your bike. So you can find a bike chain that will fit a 630 bike anywhere in the world. It may require some technical expertise to actually, correctly size the links. And there's something called a chain breaker to actually take links out. It's like a watch, taking links on and off to make sure it fits correctly. So we would have the correct sizes. You wouldn't need to make that adjustments, but any local bike shop, any store that sells chains, most likely you'll be able to find the correct size replacement chain for your 630.